So welcome everybody to this edition of the Be Empowered Show. I'm your host Graham Hopkins, and today we have a special guest back again. His name is George Helou, and the Be Empowered Show is really a conversation about what it's like to feel empowered, to feel connected to your own truth as opposed to feeling separate from that truth. And George is an ideal guest to really drill home this whole concept of being empowered. So, George, welcome again to the Be Empowered Show.
Thank you, Graham. It's a pleasure to be back.
So, George, I've just re-listened to the first video that we did together, and I always know that I'm talking to somebody who has the truth when I listen to a video and I pick up new nuggets of information, or new little gems, if you like, every time I listen to it. And that's what it's been like to re-listen to your video again this morning, George.
That's really
I was just wondering if it's okay with you, if I can just outline a few little gems that I got from that video, and then you embellish on that, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
So what I've gleaned from this is that your EP7 course, which is a coaching course, it's called EP7. It's Empowered for Purpose, with 7 steps. And I'll just define those 7 steps. It's step 1, empowered identity. Step 2, personal audit. Step 3, reignite your imagination. Step 4, deepen your intuition. Step 5, finding purpose. Step 6, living on purpose. And step 7, environmental alignment. So what I gleaned out of step 1, George, is that you literally deconstruct what it is to be an empowered identity. You establish credibility that we are bioengineered with the capacity to be extraordinary, but neurologically we are configured to be ordinary or subordinary in some areas of our life. Then the second part of it is you help us in terms with what it means to connect with the real you. That means your true identity. And then you define that as the true identity is the empowered identity, and any deviation to that is an illusion. This is really, really powerful stuff. And maybe we can start off by you adding to that and just tell me whether I'm seeing that correctly.
Absolutely. You know, we just need the credibility of information to start to decipher between those ideas that deviate us from our true identity, which is capable, it's resilient, it has an incredible imagination, it can achieve anything it wants to. The true identity is so worthy that no criticism, nothing can be said that would derail it. So you could imagine when we feel insecure, when we lose our confidence, it's because we are deviating from that truth of our true identity. And that's why it's so important to go through a processing out of what you're not and a processing into what you are, so that now you can come from that place where you are dynamic, where you celebrate your worth, and you back yourself to be able to figure things out and to be resilient no matter what the universe throws at you.
Excellent. George, I thought I'd just show the people. This is, I don't know if you can see it, but that's what's on your website. It might get a bit of reflection there.
Yep.
But it's the 7 steps that you've been outlining. You've outlined 4 of those steps already in the previous video,
Yeah.
and we're up to step 5, which is finding your purpose. So the people can find that on www.lifecoachperth.com, the EP7
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And
And now recently, Graham, I've changed it so that they could download the brochure and have the 7 steps in a PDF.
excellent.
So they can do that on Life Coach Perth, or they can go to mindpowercoach.com/EP7, and there are videos there and the brochure that they can download as well.
Cool. So if people really resonate with what you're going to share in steps 5, 6, and 7, would you recommend they go back and watch the previous video of the steps 1 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, ideally they would have watched the first one already, because that journey from steps 1 to 7, it is a nice journey to have, because the first 4 steps are being empowered for the 5th step, purpose. And then step 6, 7 are all about helping you truly live that purpose and not get derailed. So really the whole program is about purpose. So if you listen to the first 4 steps, it's foundation to that. So if someone's watching this video first, I'd pause it here, go enjoy the first video, and then come and recommence and continue on with steps 5, 6, 7.
Can I highlight something else I picked up from your last video that might help people do this? Is that you were talking about the power of attraction, and then you said if you don't do the first 4 steps, then you won't have the magnet working within you to be able to attract what you desire. Is that a fair analogy? I mean, you weren't actually saying that. I've taken it out of context a bit, but it still applies, doesn't it?
It's very aligned, very 100% accurate, because the way you carry yourself is predetermined by how you identify with who you think you are. And doesn't that pretty much set up how you see and you process your environment? That is a magnet, isn't it? Because that's going to determine how open you are, how clear you are, or how insecure you are. And that as a magnet is going to determine whether people believe in you and whether they trust you and feel easy to respect you. Definitely it is a magnet.
So this whole coaching program is more about making you the magnet instead of trying to attract things into your life when you're not a magnet.
Yeah, so the whole program is about equipping you with the tools so that you can go into all the components within you that alter your magnetic field. So the way you carry yourself, people feel, gee, I really like that guy, or gee, I really want to connect with that person. Gee, I really feel like that person, I feel at ease with them. I feel like there's someone I want to invest in, no matter what kind of investment that is, a relationship, business, whatever. And ultimately, you have the tools within you to finally tweak. And all you're ever tweaking is the context in which you make sense of yourself and your world. And that is constantly altering your signature, your magnetic signature.
So it's empowering yourself to tweak it yourself. I take it that's right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So George, do you want to kind of give us a little bit of an overview over the first 4 steps before we go on to purpose?
Yeah, sure. So you know how you got to processing out about the true identity is the empowered identity. So what is it that deviates us is simply ideas that don't work, that made us think that that's just the way the world works, and it makes us trip over ourselves. It makes us doubt ourselves and go about things in a way that's counterproductive. So that, what it does is that creates insecurity in us, and that insecurity, I like to say, it throws us out of our structural integrity. Now, structural integrity is power, because what it means is you can handle any obstacles, and you're resilient, and you're capable. So it's like structural integrity of a house. So you may recall we finished step one talking about, well, what are the principles that would help you connect to that structural identity of the real you? And so principles are saying, this is the truth about you. You matter. This is how to handle a situation that seems threatening. This is how to handle someone who is being disrespectful. So I ended up developing 52 empowerment principles so that you're never ever in the dark with why you're being disempowered and how to be empowered in the way you believe, think, feel, and act, so that you restore that structural integrity and your power's turned on. So that was step one in a nutshell, what you covered, and then the principles. Because there's your grid reference.
There, George? How did you come across these 52 principles?
Well, I'd searched for them initially, and I didn't know how many I would find. And I noticed that there was a lot of principles in religious scripture and a lot of principles in New Age universal laws kind of stuff. And then there was a lot of macro principles in like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the 4 Agreements and 7 Spiritual Laws with Deepak Chopra. So I noticed that there was a lot of coming at principles, but I just felt like there wasn't a comprehensive body of work that wasn't indoctrinated with religion or New Age, right? So eventually I took a bold move when I couldn't find it, and I just started to write them based on 15 years of personal development. And I don't know whether I mentioned this last time, but I got to 67 and realized I had a problem because I wasn't slowing down, Graham. Like, I just keep coming up with a context where we're disempowered and write the principle how to be different to get empowered. And unfortunately, with my naivety, I didn't realize that there's infinite contexts you can conjure that would give you an opportunity to write the way to be so that you can achieve what you the value. So really, what that did was it allowed me to take a step back and have a look at everything that I'd written, and then I was able to define what a principle was in such a way that not even dictionaries gave me this pure definition. And so basically, what is a principle by definition? It is how to move from a place where you don't have the value to a place where you live that value. So what is that value? Well, the values are endless. Anything you value. Do you value respect? Do you value compassion? Do you value being resilient? Do you value causality, so you can get to root causes of things? Do you value perfection, but you don't want to have, you don't want to suffer the journey of a perfectionist, but you love the outcomes of perfection? Then there's a principle to help you with that. Confrontation. Do you value confrontation? No, most people are afraid of confrontation because they can only conceive confrontation with conflict and emotional pain. But we know that if you don't confront your issues and you don't confront certain people where there's a real clash, the problems don't go away and often they get worse. And eventually, you know, we procrastinate off confrontation until it's so bad we confront with such frustration that it's like throwing acid on the situation, creates blowback, and then what have we got? We've got justification why we shouldn't have confronted in the first place. So then now that I wrote the principle, and I think, did I cover it in the last video about how to confront?
No.
Okay, so this example of confrontation was when you confront, rather than have a conclusion that gives you justification to judge, and therefore you move in with judgment and disrespect because you're making assumptions of ill intent. Instead of that, which is the usual, instead you seek to be confused and move into the space confronting with a seeking to understand from a place of humility with a respectful approach. Imagine if people confronted each other that way. Doesn't that create the beautiful space for the other person not to feel attacked? It invites them to offer if they were in a bad mood or they erred in judgment with you. Makes them want to apologize because they so appreciate the graceful way you approached them about it. Or if you were wrong, you'd find out, and it wouldn't be about an ego. It'd be about, oh, actually, this is really what happened. Ah, I'm so glad I asked you. And then all of a sudden you realize you misinterpreted something. Do you know? So that is a classic empowerment principle. But then what it made me realize was, well, there are lots of contexts. And so the reason why I settled on 52 was because I just wanted enough of them so that you got an ample, comprehensive grid reference, so that whenever you're disempowered, that you might gravitate and learn about the 7 or the 15 of them that would give you a roadmap, give you an insight as to how you can change so that you can move out of that disempowerment and into an empowering state.
Excellent. How my mind thinks, George, when I think of 52, because I know the power of numbers, I add 5 and 2 together to get 7, which is perfection. So I would say it's the perfect number.
You know, people have come to me and they've said 52 was a good number to choose. And look, it came down to intuition for me to choose 52 because I knew it needed to be around 50. You know, 40, it would have been fine. 60, we're getting to the point where we're pushing the envelope, going further than we need to go. But the reason why I didn't want to choose 50 is because I just felt like it was such a strong, bold, masculine number. It just sounded too contrived, you know? And so when I scaled it back, I thought 52 is nice. It's almost like theme your life with a principle a week and you've covered it in a year, you know? It's you know, a principle a day, 52 days later, a week, you know, 6 weeks, you pretty much covered all the principles. So I kind of chose 52 because it just felt good, but it's nice to get confirmation and it's a good number, you know.
Excellent. So
that's step 1, right? And step 2 was simply the personal assessment, so you know where you're at relative to the empowered identity. So that way you have an opportunity to migrate. So every time you stop aligning with a life lesson principle that's not empowering, but you were conditioned to believe it was, every time you stop doing that and you align with an empowering principle, you're literally reinventing yourself, aren't you? So what happens is, if you've mapped the empowered identity and it's so clear to you that now with personal assessment you start to know where you're really at, then that creates journey, doesn't it? It creates journey because now you can migrate because you're moving from a place where you know you're at. But if the empowered identity is vague and and you don't know where you're at with great detail through the personal assessment, personal audit, then no wonder we feel like we're kind of losing our way in a dark room half the time, scratching our heads, figuring, why do things always go wrong? Why is this happening to me all the time? The personal assessment finally turns on the torch and illuminates what's within you so that you know exactly where you're out of structural integrity and where you are in structural integrity so that you can start reinventing yourself.
So
Steps 3 and 4, yeah, go on.
That has been ability for where you're at. It's like taking your head out of the sand and realizing that it's a good thing to have your head out of the sand and you can actually breathe. One of the things I've picked up from your teaching is that when people are shown the truth, they'll want to take the head out of the sand because they'll see that having their head in the sand is not serving them.
Yes, yes. My last session was with an amazing guy, and when we were doing the first personal assessment with him on disempowerment, we'd already done one on empowerment, and he literally lived all 52 empowerment principles on the fact that he's a runner and he's a great runner. And we did a personal assessment on how he gets empowered, but now when we did a disempowerment one, he was talking about how he, when someone talks to him in a disrespectful tone, he doesn't speak up for himself, and he builds resentment within himself. And we did a full assessment on that. Now, when the belief systems were coming out, he began to laugh, Graham. He began to laugh, and he began to shake his head like, "Oh my God, they're shocking," you know. I said, "So you know this is not you?" He goes, "Yeah, but gosh, in a really weird, sadistic way, I'm loving seeing this because it's so ridiculous. It's good to see it. It's good to finally shed light on how I'm doing this to myself, how I'm making it worse, you know." And yeah, I love the fact that we are such amazing people that just give us the truth. We just want the truth. And we will default to that authenticity of wanting to do right by ourselves and others, you know.
Yeah. That in,
So
just
yeah.
in that is a great truth, isn't there?
Absolutely. The truth does set you free. It allows you to experience that statement with its full power and truth, you know.
I like
So
it.
do you want me to kind of briefly go on to step 3 and 4 quickly, and then that will allow us to continue on with purpose in step 5?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks,
Yeah.
George.
So imagination, in the last video, we just quickly talked about how in the ebb and flow of life, every single time things are falling apart in your life, it's because there's an idea as a context filter that's tripping you up. It's compromised your perception, it's blinkered you, and it's not allowing you to see the way you need to be, which is why you can't have a breakthrough. So during that contraction, you get to find out what idea is outdated, and then from that contraction, you get to engage outside the previous blinkered range an idea that would give you the breakthrough. And there you expand differently, and then you go beyond the previous limitation into a new peak for it to happen all over again, right? So the power of step 3, imagination, is saying imagination isn't a creative thing you do that you just add, like, you know, you just art or music, or it's not something that you just do for the fun of it. Your imagination is a part of your empowerment. It's a part of your everyday ebb and flow of life. It's every single time you're going to improve your life, it's because of the next idea that will get you to reframe the way you see things and empower you, expand your perception, and therefore from that informed place, you make different decisions and have your breakthrough. So we really lock that down in step 3 and help you develop your imagination so that it serves you in all the areas where it's underdone. And step 4 dovetails beautifully with imagination, because intuition is about being in the zone. It's about that beautiful flow where you're so tuned in, you anticipate in real time, and you just are making one optimized decision after the other, and before you know it, you've achieved something that even you are so in awe of. And we see that in sports people, we see it in artists, we see it in inventors and innovators and businesses, and we have moments where we have this beautiful string of decisions we make that just felt right, felt easy, with a knowingness. That is elite achievement in action through the flow of intuition. And it dovetails with imagination, because our ideas that we connect to, what do you think pops the good idea? Intuition. Intuition is what brings the right idea to serve you, to help you have that breakthrough. And so, you know, in step 4, we learn to trust the intuition we've already got, and we learn to develop our intuition ongoing, because the more you develop it, the more you access that knowing, the more you're making decisions from a place of confidence and truly connecting to the magic of the detail of your environment, rather than stuck in analysis, trying to figure things out and wondering why you keep missing the target. you know. So these steps all come together as the foundation for what? Obviously for you to be empowered with intuition, imagination, to have the confidence and resilience and to be able to reinvent yourself. For what? So that you can live quality experiences from your heart, right? So that you can have a desire to say, I want to be expanded. I want to have beautiful experiences that make my heart dance. That's what it's all about. So this whole program is obviously about step 5, purpose. Now, you know, a lot of people say finding purpose, don't they? They say, you know, I haven't found my purpose, or I need to find my purpose. But I think that's a trap to think that way. I think if you were to deconstruct purpose, we all have something in common when it comes to purpose. And it's we want quality experiences. We want experiences that quality is when the heart goes, yes, please. And it gets light and it feels like it's expanding and it's dancing. But when we have experiences that are not quality, in other words, they clash with our values, our heart, like a little purpose compass, says no, 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 no. And it gets burdened and it gets jaded and it feels broken. Right? So one thing that came out of when I developed this step was values. Values are the language of the heart. And without values, the heart can't express itself for the why in whatever we do. So yes, we can have lots of experiences, but without values enriching that experience, we don't get the quality. And so there are 3 areas that really satisfy the heart. The first one is your purpose to honoring your individuality, your signature essence. The more authentic you are to yourself, the more you're allowing yourself to live the values with yourself in your own relationship. So there we're talking self-respect, the trust for your capability, honoring your worth. You know, when this happens, when you connect with yourself and are so comfortable in your own skin and allow the real you to express, it's a gift to you and everyone else. And we love being around people like that because you're not being drained by trying to be something that you're not, you know. And you know, we admire people that just love themselves for wherever they are. That's a beautiful magnet, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the second area,
I love that statement. Values are the language of the heart. That really speaks to me.
yeah,
Very powerfully.
yeah. I tell you what, it unfolded through developing that language. This was not something that I read somewhere and went, yes. This was something that just showed up just by sitting with purpose long enough. Yeah, it was pretty special to distill it in that language that makes so much sense, you know. So anyway, the second area is unity. Gosh, we love the connection with nature, with animals, with each other. And when we talk unity, we talk about giving and receiving now beyond the relationship with ourselves, but now beyond us, to others, to nature. And what are we doing when we're giving and receiving through those values of caring, sharing, humor, trust, respect, love, adventure, fun, humor? When we're giving and receiving through those values, we experience a oneness, a unity where we feel like we're belonging beyond us to something even greater. We're being expanded from a place, and that belonging, that beautiful sacred connection, I call that love. So, of course, heart wants love, but there it is. It's the giving and receiving through the values, so that you can have love in the context of a romantic relationship, mateship, family, colleagues, nature, you know. We can experience that connection, that oneness, where you feel one with something else or other people, and that is a huge part of our purpose. The third area is adventure. It's expanding, treating the world like a playground. and allowing ourselves to expand and grow through new experiences, new innovations, new ideas, new food, new culture. And that is really important for us, because you know that the opposite to that is stagnation, boredom, feeling like you're dying slowly because you're not evolving, you're not growing, you know? And our heart, it really needs to be stimulated through adventure as well, you know? And so the whole program is about those three areas, and helping us be empowered to satisfy those three areas of our life.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. It really is my pleasure. And so there's a purpose hierarchy that came out of this, which is, where do you start? Where do you start the journey of your purpose? And of course we have to start with us, because if we don't get us right, everything else gets compromised. Because are we going to carry a disjointed, unsure of a part of our relationship with ourselves, our purpose, into trying to connect with others? Our insecurity will corrupt the connection. So we need to truly honor our purpose to ourselves first. So there are two parts to that we focus on. The first is your purpose. The most urgent is your purpose to your physical well-being, because your body is the instrument to collect quality experiences with. Your senses need to be heightened so that you can truly engage your environment. And so if that's compromised through pain, through medication, through disease, then forget trying to get quality experiences. Your instrument's been compromised. So your purpose to your physical well-being, your health, is such an absolute priority for your purpose. Honor the avatar suit that you have to enjoy quality experiences with. Now, often though, most people that I work with, their health is fine. We all have health goals, but they're at a level where I don't need to make that the first thing we focus on. And so we move to the other thing that is so underdone generally, which is emotional well-being, self-worth. So what is your purpose to your emotional well-being, your self-worth? Yes, that deserves to be a dedicated purpose. And so what do we do about that? And this is where we go through a 10-stage purpose developer template so that you begin to develop your purpose to yourself from scratch. Now, what I mean by from scratch is from values up. So in other words, you choose out of hundreds of values 50 that you have decided for you to be emotionally well, for you to be worthy. These are the values that are non-negotiable. So once you've chosen about 50 odd, and the reason why I ask for at least 50 is because you don't want it vague. You don't want to be value malnourished. You know, you want to enrich your brain with enough values so that the texture of what your emotional well-being is going to be about is detailed and rich and tangible. And so that's why we want a lot of values there. Then from there, we want to go, okay, we want to be empowered to live these values. So we start to focus on the 52 empowerment principles with a priority of 12 to 20. Just to get started on, okay, which principles, now that we've done personal assessment, are going to help you live those values. And then that becomes the brief. Your values and those principles become the brief so that you can turn on your imagination for what your life is going to look like with you being emotionally well and feeling your worth. And this is where we narrate your future, short-term, medium-term, long-term. And this is where we finish with the old version of you and we start to create the new version of you, so that in the way you narrate, you're acknowledging the way you used to be, but you're not judging yourself for it, and you're loving the fact that you've brought it into wisdom through the narrative. And then when you write who you're becoming, you're doing it to the level of the personal assessment. about the principles, what you believe, the way you're thinking and feeling and acting. That level of detail, Graham, is so empowering because it does take that level for the brain to be saturated with such repetition that eventually it just takes it on. Because the brain doesn't know what's real or not real. I keep saying this. It doesn't have a moral compass. Therefore, it can work against you or for you. So just as we got tricked into ideas that disempowered us and prevented us from living our purpose, now what we do is we narrate the future as if it's already real. And the brain gets tricked into configuring into the new version of you so that becomes natural. And then from this purpose development template, we pull purpose-based goals out of that. We create neural triggers that will now allow you to trigger into the new version of you, not the old. And so it's 10 stages, and that level of repetition, immersion, is the power of making sure we're not gambling with the reinvention that needs to take place for you to live your purpose. And so what you'll find is that when people do this level of work, it's so extraordinary that they just change. They just feel different and it's beautiful to watch. You know, it's quite powerful. So that's the Purpose Developer template. And remember I was saying to you about the purpose hierarchy, how we need you to have your purpose to yourself first? Well, what's happening there is now you're feeling your worth more. You're starting to feel very comfortable in your own skin. That magnet is changing. And now you're primed for the next level of the purpose hierarchy, which is your purpose to your roles and relationships. So what is your purpose as a father? What is your purpose as a friend? What is your purpose as a pilot? What is your purpose as a Be Empowered founder and facilitator? What is your purpose as a husband? When we apply 10-stage purpose development to each of those roles and relationships, expect the extraordinary in the connections that you're going to have. What happens is nobody that I have ever read or known will sit down and have a purpose as a father and choose 50 values that they want to honor the connection with their children, and then choose the empowerment principles so that they conquer anything in them that's going to prevent them from living those values for their children, and then sit there and write pages of narrative so that they live it. Who does that? Imagine someone, a mate of yours, who says, my purpose to you, Graham, as a friend, I have 50 values, Graham, that I chose to honor our connection, that are precious to me, because I want to be extraordinary for you, and I want our relationship to be extraordinary. It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why it's not hard to conceive that you're going to get extraordinary relationships out of your purpose in those roles when you follow that purpose development template. And what happens with that is that creates the perfect platform, the fertile soil for your goals. That's the next level up in your purpose hierarchy. Because isn't that the foundation? Extraordinary relationships for your goals? Because now, what is your purpose to buy a house? What is your purpose to go on holidays? What is your purpose to start a business? What is your purpose to find a girl, have a beautiful relationship, get married, have children? All these things become easy to do when you know how to create, when you've got extraordinary relationships in your life and you know how to create them. So
I think George, where a lot of people make a mistake is that they try to establish their goals before they actually go through this process, and therefore they don't have the magnet established in their life
that's
is
a great insight.
Drawing relationships to themselves that actually serve them and work with them instead of against them.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. And you know, to give perspective on what you just said, we don't get to purpose-based goals in EP7 until the 10th hour. The the 10th hour of coaching or doing the course in retreats and groups, the 10th hour before you even entertain your goals. So it just shows that we do rush into goals before we get the right order and sequence right of the why behind the goals and the values.
I think one of the problems is that we're being engineered to be a society that wants everything instantly. So, you know, we want to attract something without being an attractor.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of goals be achieving so that you can be seen as a success, so that you could feel good about yourself. So it's normally focused on how people are perceiving you more than how you choose to be, because they are the rules that you want to live by. So it's about building yourself from the inside out rather than being motivated by the pressures of how you're meant to be so that you can be given the tick that you're a success.
Before we go on, George, I just want to share with you that I've done a number of great interviews, and there's a guy called Adam Shaw that everybody should listen to. Adam is known as the heart guy, and he's an expert in heart attack, and he's worked with thousands of people, and he came to the conclusion that all degenerative diseases are caused by a lack of self-worth, which I found amazing. So that really ties in with what you're saying, that there's a great connection between self-worth and our health and well-being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I don't know if I covered this in the first video, but the heart is quickly put on standby when the brain has been configured to expect drama and conflict, and so therefore it engages the stress response a lot, and it will therefore say, not now, heart, I just got to deal with this drama, we're in danger here, you know. But 99.9% of the drama is simply differences of opinion, fear of feeling devalued. None of this has got anything to do with you being physically under threat and needing to engage tight muscles, you know, at accelerated heart rate, sweat, and hyper alertness. You know, it's completely inappropriate response to simply ideas that are threatening your self-worth. So the brain is configured to keep saying to the heart, not now, not now. And unfortunately, it has the imagination to always see problems, and therefore the heart never gets a say. And unfortunately, we see that in status quo, rat race, road rage, struggle of stress, and chronic stress leads to chronic disease, and the heart gets neglected, the values are not being expressed, it gets broken. A heart attack is often linked to a broken heart. It's uncanny how many times you'll hear someone had a heart attack and they were broken-hearted because of a betrayal or a perceived betrayal. It's uncanny.
That's really powerful. That's exactly what Adam Shaw was saying. So it ties in. Yeah. George, I'd like to just go back to this this statement you made in the first video. You said, if you show someone the truth, they want the truth, and when they see it, they're set free. I'd just like to, I know we've already covered it, but it's so important for people to actually get a hold of this, because that is really the whole key, isn't it, of becoming aware and connecting with your own truth, and that truth will set you free.
Yeah, and I think that the way people can relate to that already from their own personal experiences is when they've had those epiphanies, those realizations, those in awe moments where all of a sudden they knew they were never going to be the same again. They discovered something that resonated so strongly, it turned on the light bulb moment, and they knew they could never turn back to the old way of thinking because now they knew too much. That is really what that is, isn't it? So in many ways, most people can relate to that and go, actually, yes, the truth does set me free. I've already got a history of those moments, and they were turning points. And I went to the next level. It was a wisdom, that absolute collapsing and experiencing to wisdom where you'll never need to be that way again. That's that truth setting you free.
So, George, you're also an author. Do you want to tell us quickly about the books you've written?
Yes, look, the books that I have written, it started off with just me writing sayings and short paragraphs to get people thinking differently. And I did that initially reluctantly because the first book I published was really not meant to be me writing the words, but we couldn't get people who wrote good words we couldn't get in touch with them to use those words with beautiful images. And then I was already writing and texting friends and helping them, and I was getting all this feedback that it was changing their lives, and I had no idea. I was just sharing because I just wanted to, because it resonated with me and I thought it might make a difference, but I had no idea the difference it was making. And you know the olden days where you could just have a text and you just copy paste send. Yeah, yep. This was back in the late 90s, that kind of old texting. And so I would do that for people when I found out they really liked it. And so what happened was I built a library of all these sayings, and then they made the first book. And that first book sold 40,000 odd copies now in Australia and New Zealand. So it really took off. And so we did the second one, and that was a bestseller too. But I thought to myself, I don't want to just write sayings. I want the meat of my body of work now. So right now I'm halfway writing a book called On EP7. And the working title is called Journey to Genius. Because remember when I was saying about the purpose hierarchy? When you start having a purpose to yourself and then to your roles and relationships and then to your goals, it sets you on a journey of empowerment and higher purpose. And it gets you to the apex of where your signature essence, plus being expressed with full empowerment, takes you to a higher purpose of genius outcomes. In other words, people are so profoundly impacted by what you're doing, they start to say, wow, that's genius what you're doing. And see, the whole program is about the fact that you have genius within you. When you can turn on the real you with full empowerment, you're going to touch the world in your own unique way.
Absolutely.
And people are going to say that's genius to them. Not because you need to be a genius or you need some formal classification that you're a genius. Not at all. It's just that when people use the word genius, it just means you wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and there's your feedback. That's pretty pure knowledge, pure feedback of, wow, you really are reaching a higher level of making a difference, So yeah, the working title is Journey to Genius. Journey to Genius. I don't know if that will end up being the title, but it's definitely about being empowered for purpose, and it will be the 7 steps.
What about the title Angelic Dreams? Where did that come?
Angelic Dreams came because the photographer at the time, Bernard Rosa, he was great at photo fantasy. He could create beautiful angels out of real people and real wings and Photoshop and bring them together, and they looked spectacular. And he had a real taste for that romantic kind of classical period, And so his images were profoundly beautiful. And So it was right to call it angelic dreams. And angelic dreams was almost like writing inspirational sayings that would help people be empowered, so that it's almost as if they're tapping into that angelic guidance. So yeah,
Excellent.
it was kind of like that, you know. It was a classic, beautiful gift book that was geared towards women who love something that's just beautiful, but also the words are poetic and inspiring. That's where angelic dreams came from.
Excellent. So what I can see from your EP7 coaching course is that people don't really understand their true value. They don't understand how to connect with their truth and feel worthy. And what I see in your course is that you're taking it step by step in a very systematic and logical method in order to bring them to that point where they do understand what it is. And that's why, you know, I can see such huge potential in what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're right. I did want it to be logical. I did want it to be a step-by-step approach. And I wanted everything I did to be backed with logic and credible information and the ability to prove that all 7 steps, every single claim, you've already lived. And let me prove it to you. There's nothing more powerful than showing the person that they've already lived what you're telling them is true.
Yeah.
Because then they just go, okay, fair enough, you just proved it to me. I'm going to lock that in. And now I'm going to leverage the benefit of that, because I already had personal journey with that, into other areas where I got tricked into partitioning that relevance and didn't allow it in, and therefore could not be empowered.
I really know where you're coming from in when you see people connect with their truth. It's probably it's the most satisfying feeling that I've ever experienced. And you know, I've been an airline pilot for 40 years now, and I've had some pretty amazing experiences over that time. But there's nothing like this. I mean, to see people connect with their truth is the ultimate, I think.
Graham, you may take people to physical new heights, but the mental and emotional and soul level new heights, that's something else, isn't it?
It's amazing. And you know what I've discovered? It doesn't matter about religion. I've actually been coaching a lady from Sri Lanka, and I think she's Hindu. It doesn't really matter. But she has grasped this so profoundly that it's just transformed her life. And she'll be coming on this show in the next couple of months as a witness.
It's interesting. Yeah. You know, it's interesting you should say that, because if it's pure and true, it shouldn't have to conflict with anything. And if it is conflicting, that might be because of misunderstanding and miscommunication. Because I'll give you an example. There was a lovely Christian couple, mother and son, who he was a professional kayaker. He wanted to train to go to the Olympics. So we started the program for him. And when we did step 1 and we looked at how you're bioengineered with the capacity to be extraordinary, and I took him through that whole process, he got uncomfortable. His mother was in the session and she absolutely loved it and got excited. But then when they went home, he was reluctant to come to the next session, and she was mortified. And she called me, she goes, "What do we do, George? Like, I don't know why he's..." I go, "Look, let me talk to him." And he opened up and he was honest, and he said, "George, I just feel like all these biological facts and how we're so powerful, I just feel like we're not acknowledging God. Really, God gives this to us, not us. We don't really get this power. God gives us this power." And I said to him, "Okay, so let me understand what you think God is to you in this situation. Is God more powerful and more loving if he gifts you with the bioengineering so that you have the capacity to dream and make your dreams come true, or have to keep praying and be drip-fed little bits at a time? Which one is the more loving, more powerful God? And he went quiet for a little bit, which was a good sign on you. And he goes, I get it. I get it. And he was back into the program with just fully aligned and no more, you know, anxiety that he was in some way disrespecting his God, you know? And that is the case with this program. There's no reason why anyone that can come from any faith, I've had people from Islam faith, Christian faith, all kinds of faith, atheists, everything. And ideally, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring it back down to pure knowledge, practical, everyday, so that we can see cause and effect in how it all hangs together, so that it's not about blind faith to help you connect to yourself and then go on a journey of being empowered to live a life that's dignified and rewarding, you know?
Mm. I find that our judgmental concepts of God is one of the things that actually creates that gap that we talk about.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, definitely our ideas get in the way of the truth that we're all united. We're all in the same boat. We're all here to experience life and to connect. And yeah, like obviously it's we get these weird insecure ideas, and if I'm going to attach evil to anything, I'd attach it to our insecurity. Because that's where it breeds from.
Absolutely.
The fear that we're not good enough and we have to protect, and us against them, and next thing you know, you got war. That's as evil as you get when you can justify mass killing, you know.
Well, George, I know we could talk all day, and I don't know about the audience out there, but I've been sitting on the edge listening to you, because I've studied this for many, many years, probably 25, 30 years, and I know the truth when I see it. And I do truly believe that what you're doing is a great, great model. This EP7 is structured so well to bring people to an understanding of who they are. So I just want to thank you. I want to commend you for your work, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Graham. That means so much to me. And you know, with step 5, purpose, I could now explain to you step 6 and 7 with not as much detail, because I don't think we need as much detail for you to see how it all hangs together, you know. And so can you imagine being so clear about your purpose in step 5 with all the purpose development that you've done for your roles, relationships, goals, and your relationship to yourself, that now step 6 is about living on purpose. So now what we do is we move those little neural triggers that turn on the state that you rehearsed in the narrative and everything, and you're able to put them into your calendar so that you don't have appointments without you choosing to make sure you know how your heart is going to be in that appointment. Whether it's a coffee meeting, a meeting with a colleague, a client. So you're always putting your heart in everything you do, and it's rehearsed, right? And it's value rich. And also your to-do list. You don't have a to-do list without neural triggers so that you know the bigger picture of why you're doing these things, so that your heart can be in it too. If you can get your heart in it, the journey becomes as sweet as the destination. That's the key. And therefore, it's a sustainable journey. Now, obstacles are so easily dealt with because you expect them. You're geared from an abundant creative flow to move through them gracefully. And so that's why living on purpose doesn't become this anxiety of, can I do this? It becomes bring it on kind of attitude. And then also something awesome happens. You turn on the abundance. You don't allow time and money to ever get in the way of you living your purpose. Thanks to imagination and intuition, and thanks to the prep work, you now learn to multi-purpose task. You learn to layer all the different areas of your life into flow so that you're achieving a lot more with a lot less effort. And that makes life Very exciting. And that's what step 6 is about. Step 7, environmental alignment, is making sure that we're practical and we have a solid strategy so that when we are reinventing ourselves and moving into a new way of being, we need to protect ourselves in that volatile stage because we can easily slip back into the old. So we've still got bad habits that are slowly will dissolve and new habits will lock in. So we need to protect that volatile stage. The way we do it is we look at aligning 4 environments. The first one was your heart. We learned its language. It had a lot to say. It spoke in values. But who would be the servant of the heart that we need to align to the heart? It's the brain. The brain then gets configured through the empowerment principles, the imagination, the personal assessment to evolve so that it truly aligns to serve the heart through thinking differently and making different decisions. But who would be the servant of the heart, of the brain that we need to align to? The body. Because isn't the body the one that's going to take the physical actions, develop the new habits, and collect the emotional experiences for the heart? But this body goes through a metamorphosis. And it's not about time, it's what you do in time, but it definitely is a process that often can take 6 to 8 weeks on average. It could happen in a day, it can happen longer than that. But what's happening there is literally your biochemistry is changing. Old receptor sites that crave the old way of being, that cellular memory of the old way of being, are dissolving. And the new is forming. So let's protect that, because if you trigger the old, the body will go, whoa, 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 we're still in the old reality. Brain, protect us, and it will force the brain to go back to the old thinking. So what do we need to do? We need to look at where these buttons get pushed from. And that comes from aligning the external environment where those buttons come from. So we do an environmental audit. We look at everything that supports our empowerment and purpose and everything that's clashing with it. And we hold our environment as a sacred space where we know that those repetition of environmental signals are immersing us and we become a product of our environment. So what we need to do is choreograph that environment so it supports the new version of us and does not stimulate the old version of us. So through the environmental audit, we choreograph to spend a lot more time with the stuff that supports us, and we come up with ways to mitigate those things that clash with us. We've got all those strategies in step 7 to do that. So we've got a plan, and then we roll that plan into the purpose developer so that we narrate and rehearse how we're going to deal with it, and we've got new purpose-based goals to help us lock in and create permanent change. So every time we reinvent ourselves, environmental alignment helps us to make sure that that reinvention gets locked in. And that's step 7.
That's wonderful.
So that's it.
If somebody's listening, George, who really resonates with this, my question is, can you help people online with this, or does it have to be one-to-one coaching?
Okay. No, not at all. It doesn't have to be one-on-one coaching at all. I'll let you know where I'm at with how EP7 now is going out into helping people. One-on-one coaching has been going on for 3 years. I'm now training coaches to become EP7 certified. I've got a team of coaches in November that will be the first batch. I've already trained one in the beta stage. Now I've got several that are ready to become EP7 coaches. I plan to probably do 150 odd coaches in the next 18 months. So they'll then offer their services locally and online. I've now launched EP7 seminars here locally, so that I'm starting an EP7 course for people in Subiaco, for example, in Perth. But in the same light, I'm going to do webinars, so that people have free webinars to go through the 7 steps in a more interactive way where they can ask questions. But then we do a 7-step webinar program so that they can do it online. But now I'm also looking at retreats, so that you could go to Thailand for a whole week, do 7 steps in 7 days, and go home a completely different person equipped with different tools. So I'm preparing all these things now, and so if anyone is watching this video and wants to stay in touch with these opportunities, they can go to mindpowercoach.com and they could register, or even / EP7, leave their details, get the brochure, and then what I'll do is I'll keep them in touch with, you know, overseas retreats and online webinars, so that if they're interested in keeping up to date with those opportunities, I'll do that. You know, they'll get that from me.
Excellent. And of course, if they want to read any of your books, they can go to Amazon and download them from Amazon.
Yeah, I think you can buy those books and they can be delivered to you online. I'm planning to finish my book by the end of the year, Journey to Genius. It's already half written, so we're getting there. You know, I'm looking forward to that book being finished, and then that will be available through you know, audiobooks through iTunes and everything else, and Amazon and all that. And then I want to do that as an audio book as well. You know, so definitely everyone will be in touch with these as they come out if you leave your details on mindpowercoach.com.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the way to plug in.
So you've got a lot coming down the tube, and I would personally like to highly recommend this to everybody. As I said, I've been involved in this type of thing for many years now, and George Helou has come up with a great opportunity here to really learn how to connect with yourself and connect with your own truth. So George, I think we'll wind it up here. It's been a fantastic conversation with you, and I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything you want to leave with the people out there before we wind this up?
Yeah, look, all I can say is you can have the life your heart yearns for. The only thing that is that's standing in between you and the life your heart yearns for is bad ideas that are simply lodged into your subconscious, but they got there through a process, and they can therefore be undone through a process. And you know the truth deep within you. So the moment you start to latch on to these great ideas that replace the disempowering ones, you are going to be set free. You're going to come more into your own power. So don't let this life pass you by and shortchange your purpose. You're here for a reason. Your beautiful body doesn't hang together for the hell of it. You deserve quality experiences. You deserve to grow, and you deserve your heart to feel expanded in this life, so that when you look back and you've come to the twilight of your life, you're going to have the biggest smile on your face, because you're going to know you lived it to the depth of your being. So that's the message I want to get out there, that let personal development be a part of your everyday, because you will harvest the rewards of learning how to reinvent yourself. And you know, we're all in it together, and we all benefit when we all become more truer to ourselves and live our dreams. That synergy creates incredible abundance, so that we all give with such passion and such uniqueness of gifts will circulate between us all, and yeah, talk about enriching our life just by being empowered for our purpose. And I want to thank you, Graham, because you've made this connection in these two videos a pleasure for me to share, and yeah, I'm excited that you are connecting to everything that I was saying in it, and for you to have that 35-40 years of journey of personal development and hear everything that I've shared in a short period relative to the immersion you've had, and have the impression that you've come away with, yeah, that really, I'm grateful for that, and thank you for expressing that.
Excellent. I received that, George, and I thank you. Can I just have your the name of your new book again once more?
Journey to Genius is the new book title. It is a working title, but I'm open to keeping that, the way. If I change it, I'll let you know.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for joining the Be Empowered show. I'm your host, Graham Hopkins. Before we go, I'd like to ask a big favour of you. If people could go to iTunes and leave a review, if this interview, for instance, has really resonated with you, then if you leave a review on iTunes, it'll increase the ratings on iTunes and make this message become available to more people. As George said, keep an eye out for his new book, Journey to Genius. I will definitely be reading that one. And if you want to know more about the concepts that George and I have shared today, you can read his book or his books. You can also go to Amazon and download my book called The Manifesto of Your Inspirational Mind, or you can download a free ebook at www.beempoweredgroup.com called Know Your True Value and Worth. So on behalf of George and myself, we'd really like to wish you a wonderful future of freedom, peace, abundance as you connect with your values. Thank you so much.
Thank you.